So I love me some Wes Anderson films. I really do think Wes Anderson is a fantastic director, and the reason why I'm even bringing him up is because I don't, my attention span has been compromised significantly to where it's very difficult for me to sit down and watch movies these days. I'm not proud of that, but on the plane ride back home the other week, I watched films for like the first time in a long time, and I saw Asteroid City was available, and I know that the ratings for it and the critics weren't that happy with Asteroid City, but I was like, let me give it a shot. And it's a Wes Anderson film, one of his newer movies. So I watched that, and I was like, yo, I love this movie. I love it. It's not in my top five. It is not in my top five Wes Anderson films, because it's a very difficult thing to do, to crack the top five of your Wes Anderson films. But I thought it was great. I thought Tom Hanks did a fantastic job. I was a little bit wary of all of the big names, because every time I watched a Wes Anderson movie, yes, you see certain names like Bill Murray or what's his name, Brody and Owen Wilson. You see a lot of recurring actors in his films, but a lot of times when I watched them, they weren't so they weren't just like so many of them. In Asteroid City, it is a list of stars of well-known actors, and I was very wary of that, because I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna watch all these actors, and it's gonna be too much. It's hard for me sometimes, because I've seen so many. I'm very interested in writing, and I'm very interested in acting and directing and all that stuff, and the arts. I like the arts a lot, and I've seen so many of these actors in interviews, and it's hard for me sometimes to appreciate what I'm looking at. Cause I'm like, oh, it's Margot Robbie, but I know you're Margot Robbie. However, in Asteroid City, they all did a very good job, actually, and I think that's a credit also to Wes Anderson. I think what Wes Anderson does in his directorial choices and whatnot, I love him. And that movie is really, really Wes Anderson out. Like, it's very, very, very theater-ish. It's honestly, it's kind of an ode to theater, and just like how Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was like a love letter to Hollywood, this is almost like a love letter in a sense, not in its entirety, but in a large sense. It was like a nod to theater and to acting, but why simultaneously while being some other things. But I just want to praise Wes Anderson and talk about like why my top five films or my top five films. I'm going to start with number one. And it's crazy that this movie is my number one. It really does blow my mind, because when I first had seen it, it did not leave that big of an impression on me, although that's what I thought, because I'm gonna say I saw Rushmore and I was in love with Rushmore. I saw Grand Budapest Hotel and Moonrise Kingdom, and I fell in love with that. But the my top Wes Anderson film is Darjeeling Limited. I've watched that movie like 20 times. That movie is so good. And I want to recommend to you to watch Darjeeling Limited if you are looking for a Wes Anderson movie to like. And I'm trying to figure out, I've analyzed it, and I'm like, why does this movie speak to me so damn much? And there's several reasons. So Darjeeling Limited is about three brothers, Jason Schwartzman, Owen Wilson, and Adrian Brody. I might be getting his name incorrect. But it's these three brothers who they go to India, and they take a trip to India on this train called the Darjeeling Limited. And it's Owen Wilson, the oldest brother. What he's trying to do is, so their father had just passed, and he's trying to unite his brothers. And this is meant to be a spiritual journey for them, right? And they're all very, very flawed. They're all like drug addicts and have their issues, but they're all like also like wealthy men at the same time. And but they clearly are like have like a hollowness inside of them as a result of their upbringing, as a result of the abrupt way in which their father had passed, and as a result of their dysfunctional relationship they have with their mother. And then so Owen Wilson is trying to be like the parent to the two brothers. It's so I hate to say it's cute. It's like cute, but there's like a cuteness to it as well. Like there is, and there's a wholesomeness. There's a wholesomeness to it. And me as somebody, I'm the youngest of four brothers, and so like I feel it, I get it. And so there aren't. So what makes it so awesome is because, for one, immediately the music, his musical choices are so awesome in all his films. But this is primarily, it's Indian based music, and it's so good. Like I can't tell you what songs they are, that's why you need to watch it for yourself. It's just the instrumentation. I can hear it right now in the first scene where they're sitting down at the eating dinner at the or lunch on the train, and there's this music in the background playing. It's like a flute in India, and it's just so great. And then and moving forward, it's awesome because then you got Jason Schwartzman, who's like a he's a daredevil sorts. He's a writer, very deeply dissatisfied at the moment because he's going through issues with his significant other, who is played by Natalie Portman, and he immediately makes advances to this Indian woman who is their quote unquote waitress of sorts, their server, and then from there, so they're doing all this, right? So Owen Wilson's trying to orchestrate a kind of togetherness with him, Jason Schwartzman, and Adrian Brody, and he's trying to make something happen with them, and they're very it causes a tension and a friction between them all, right? And what's so dope in the symbolism in it is very great. So eventually, and this is a spoiler alert, so eventually some things go wrong, some things go right, some things go wrong, and so they get kicked off the train for being just too extra, just being too much. They're fighting amongst each other, and they bring on a venomous snake on the train, and so they get kicked off. They've done enough. What I love about like the second act of this movie, why it's so great, is so the three brothers are walking along, and they have all their luggage, and it's so dope. They have a ton of their father's luggage, baggage. So by the way, they're carrying with them all this baggage with them, like literally, like they have like a ton of luggage with them, and it was their father's luggage, and they have their father's things in there as well. So they have their father's baggage and all of their baggage with them. They've been kicked off the train. They're walking along, and you see these three Indian boys. They're carrying water or food or something across this river, and so but they're doing it on this makeshift. It's not even a bridge. It's like the three Indian boys are on a raft, and it's just like one little measly rope that they're pulling. And then so again, all three of these guys they're self-centered in their own ways, and they're shallow and inconsiderate in their own ways, but they still have a lot of heart to them, right? So like the initial thing is like Owen Wilson sees them and he says, look at these assholes, and they're just looking at them because they're like, look at these fools, like what are they doing, like this raggedy little makeshift little bridge they got going on. And so then it snaps, and the three boys all fall, and so it's like this river with rushing water, and then so they all looking at it, and then immediately Adrian Brody just says go, and they just start running. So immediately, what's so dope about it's like, so you got these three asshole brothers, they're all assholes in their own right, and immediately they rush to the aid of these children because because they still have heart at the root of it, and it's very believable as well, because they're never so ugly and so awful that you're like, oh, they're awful people, but it's just they're highly flawed. It's very human. And so they rush to the aid of these three boys, and they just say go, and they drop all their bags, they drop all their luggage, and they go and they rush to the aid of these boys, and then these kids are drowning. And it's done again cinematically the way that Wes Anderson does it, and then like how Jason Schwartzman is eventually just running and the sound is muted, and so eventually it all crescendos to Jason Schwartzman is not in the water, he's running. Adrian Brody has a little child in his arms, and he's bleeding at a forehead, and Adrian Brody just says, I didn't save mine. And that's all he's just saying, I didn't save mine. And to me, there's something so again so beautifully flawed and profound about that. Like he took it so personally. It was beautiful. That what I love about that, it wasn't that Adrian Brody I didn't save him. It wasn't that it was so altruistic, but it's still like I didn't save mine. Like it was like my self-esteem hinged on saving this boy, and I didn't save him. Damn it. And but it's still understandable. Like it doesn't bother you, like, oh, you're not looking like it was. It's this again, it's the simultaneity, guys. It's simultaneity, because it's not about any one thing. It's not about, oh, he just wanted to save the boy to make himself feel good. No, it's a very human thing. He wanted to save the boy, and also he wanted to save him because it would have made him feel better about himself. Both things can be true at the same time. But so he didn't save the child. It was two of the boys lived, one of the boys died, and so they're walking with these children back to this Indian village. The boys show them where they live. And they're walking, and then the father comes and he's like, what's going on? They're all speaking in I'm assuming Hindi, I have no idea, and they're speaking in Hindi, let's say. And so then it's like a very slow paced, silent sort of like scene by scene showing of each of the brothers, just sort of like just steeped into this energy, this tone of the boy just passed, and it shows how like the Indian people there are treating them very very well, and it's very very peaceful, and it's very very beautiful. And so ultimately, so it's like the three brothers are like, okay, all right, I guess it's time to go then. And so eventually, like a day passes or so, and then they leave. And then they're on the bus, they're in the back of the bus, and then the brother of the boy who died comes on the bus, and he's just speaking to them. And they're like, what is he saying? And then Owen Wilson talks to him, and then he tells his brothers, and he says, we're invited to the funeral. And so then they're invited to the funeral. And what this scene does, the reason why this is so damn beautiful, because I watched this movie so many times, it shifts the entire energy of the three brothers dynamic. Because what it did for them is it put it all back in perspective. So prior to this boy passing, prior to them trying to save this boy's life, they were all like they were very very much so fighting about nonsense. It was all a lot of trivial shit that was bothering them, that was making their life frustrated, because these dudes they weren't worried about money. None of their concerns, or like the stakes aren't as high as any of them were acting. Now since they finally have confronted, they were hands-on involved with with something that was as consequential as the passing of this boy's life, and then they were invited to the funeral and they were treated so well. Their perspective shift, and they all it just clicked for them. They were like, oh, like, okay, this is what's important. Like it's beautiful, but it wasn't. None of this is like said. None of this is communicated. You could just see it and feel it, and it's there. And then so after they're invited, so they all have a kind of and so it's a beautiful scene when they leave after the funeral, when they leave for real. All of the Indian villagers come out there and they all say bye to them, and it's very peaceful, very beautiful. And again, the music is just so good. I can't stress enough that the musical selections for this movie are fantastic. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Beautiful. So then, now they finally see their mother. So I failed to mention how much longer I got. Oh shit, I don't have any more time. Oh god, I don't have any more time left. Listen, The Darjeeling Limited is a very, very, very good movie, and I highly recommend you see it. I don't have any more time to talk about this. Eventually, in the end, they see their mother, and their mother is at this temple. Like she's at this temple, or she's at a what do you call it, man? She's a daggone missionary. And then they realize that, okay. And so eventually, at the very very end of the movie, they drop their baggage. They're running on the train, and then they all that father's baggage and stuff. They're late for the train. They have to run on the train, and so they let go of all their baggage. All their father's luggage and stuff, they let go of the baggage. It's such a beautiful movie. I highly recommend Darjeeling Limited. I ran out of time. Hey, bless you all.